So how many of you have had a dream, a goal, or something that you just know that you've been meant to do? Awesome, thank you. And how many of you have experienced a few setbacks or obstacles or challenges along the way? Yeah? Yeah. And have any of you ever felt just stuck or stopped or maybe even paralyzed by your doubts and fears? Yeah? Or even gotten to the point where you felt like it was too much, you couldn't even go on? Yeah. Yeah, I felt those ways too. Pretty profound journey, and I'm just so happy to be able to share from my experiences today in a way that will hopefully inspire and contribute to you, give you some specific tools and concepts that you can apply to your own life to achieve your dreams and live the fullest possible life that you can. Sound good?
Yeah.
Awesome. So I grew up playing sports. I grew up playing soccer and baseball. Just absolutely loved it. And I was gifted and talented and played really hard and was always in the All-Stars and the playoffs and just loved it. Totally disappeared into the joy and the juice of that, right? As a little kid growing up. Couldn't wait for the next game. Couldn't wait to have the game on the line when I'd be the batter trying to hit the home run. And even in the times that I would strike out, just the drama of it and being able to go full out for it. And I was raised by a high school chemistry teacher, my mom, and an engineer, right? We had Scientific American on the coffee table. I actually read it as a little kid. So I was, very into the math and science and really studious in school and loved learning. So I had this kind of duality of being kind of the superstar athlete, but I wasn't that proverbial dumb jock, like I was actually the smart jock, right? So, I developed and ended up doing, extremely well in school. I got to the top of my class. In fact, some of the nerves I'm feeling now remind me of the first major speech I gave, which is at the high school baccalaureate. So I was second in my class, and I gave that speech. I remember that, preparing for that and what it was like. And the exhilaration that's of being on stage and being able to contribute and share is so similar to me of how it was to be competing in the game when it was all on the line. Like you feel so alive, right? You ever felt that way? Yeah. Especially speaking. I know we've got some speakers in the room here, right? So, growing up in those sports, I dreamed of maybe making it to the World Series in baseball or the World Cup in soccer, which if any of you, were soccer fans, that back then the U.S. was nowhere near, having a shot at that, but still I could have that dream, right? But, I was responsible. I, did well in school, and I chose UC San Diego for really the academics to follow in those footsteps of being an engineer. As I look back now, I didn't really fully make that choice of all the possibilities the way I thought I did. It was very much influenced by my father's path, and I ended up choosing that. But in college, I went out to try out for the track and field team. And I stumbled into this thing called the hammer throw of track and field. Anybody heard of the hammer throw? A few of you, yeah. It's not so popular in the United States. So it's a 16-pound ball, like the shot put, which you throw from the shoulder. But with a hammer, you get a wire and a handle attached to it. So you swing it around, spin, and throw it as far as you can. And a good throw is like 200 feet. So imagine taking a bowling ball and hurling that thing 200 feet. Just like growing up in soccer and baseball, now there was this new frontier, and I was hooked. I couldn't get enough of it. And I was gifted and talented, so I excelled really quickly. And part of what helped me was that engineer's mindset of understanding the mechanics and the technique, because it's very complicated in the hammer throw. And the opposing forces, that thing gets to weigh like 600 pounds as you're spinning because of the centrifugal force. Not only that, but then I went on to win the collegiate championships, and then another one, and I broke the collegiate record. So I had this incredible amount of success. And I had an awesome coach, a coach that saw something in me and believed in me and reflected that, if you work hard enough, you follow these, training programs and the plan, like you could achieve whatever you want in this sport. Just a question of, how hard are you willing to work? How long are you willing to go for it? And that resonated in a way inside of me that I'd been seen and recognized in the way that I hadn't felt before in my life. So now all of a sudden, I graduate the national champion, broke the record, and I made it to the Olympic trials. I need to get my cool thing showing. Oh, I'm going to save this for one little second. So I went from being that proverbial big fish in the little pond to now the little fish in the big pond, right? Not only that, I'm graduated with my mechanical engineering degree, so I'm working as an engineer. I'm going to the office, dressed in a suit and a tie, and then I'd go change in my car, just like Clark Kent going in a phone booth. And I'd walk out there and I'd be an Olympic athlete. I'd get to train and pursue my dream. How amazing was that, right? I trained my butt off while working full time, but again, I was so full of that passion, that enthusiasm, that juice, that supported me and fueled me in that dream. And I didn't exactly love working as an engineer, but I was good at it, and it provided the means for me to follow my dream. Anyone relate to that? Yeah, I had some of those experiences. So here we are, the year before the Olympics, 1995, getting ready for Atlanta. I was working with the Home Depot, doing promotional things for them, doing speaking and PR. They're based in Atlanta where the games were that year. I ended up with the world record holder as one of my personal coaches. I built myself up into being in the top 10 in the US. The top 3 make the Olympic team. So I'm actually in the running. Like, this dream is looking like it's possible. And I still had a couple notches to go up the rung there to pick off those top 3 and get that Olympic jersey. But I was full out. I was fully committed. I fully went for it. And I went to Atlanta for the Olympic trials. Here's the chance. I didn't make it. It was so heartbreaking. And not because it was something that I expected, like that was a sure thing by any means, but because I had so focused my energy and my vision. Every day when I woke up, I would see myself walking into that stadium, marching into the Olympic Stadium with the flag and the entire fanfare and the inspiration that the Olympics always was for me, about the whole world coming together, setting aside our differences, and celebrating the very best in humanity, but also embracing the struggle and the disappointment of when we fall short of what we're striving for. But I still had this dream. So I decided, the Olympics are 4 years away. But I love this. I'm in the top 10. I'm going to keep going. Engineering's not enough for me, not yet. I'm going to give this all I got while I still can. So I recommitted and kept training, working full-time as an engineer. Of course, I got the nickname Thor while doing the promotional things for that Home Depot with the hammer throw. So, again, having this kind of the duality of my existence. And here we are. We're getting closer. The year before the games. Training with the world record holder from Russia. Still holds the record, the oldest track and field record, right? Giving everything that I possibly can. Burning the candle at both ends. Working as an engineer. Not getting much sleep at night, but fueled by the passion for my dream. And then, out of nowhere, I meet this woman, this extraordinary woman. Fell deeply in love. Felt like I'd found my soulmate. That fulfillment of all that I imagined and had wanted in that part of my life, which I thought, would happen further down the road, but there it was. So I couldn't pass up that amazing, beautiful gift. This is, again, the year before the Olympics. Things are coming together. My throwing's coming along. I'm training with the world record holder. We're refining my technique, all of my training, all the weightlifting, everything that I'd focused my whole life around. Even my engineering work, I got my managers to give me flexibility with my schedule, right? So I could do my dream while doing my job. Anyone heard of a professional hammer thrower? Yeah, so they call you amateur athlete for a reason, meaning you don't get paid. Anyone relate to doing your passion for a while and not getting paid to do it? Yeah, thank you. But like sometimes happens, I had a major sidetrack. Totally blindsided. Had a freak accident. I woke up in the hospital. Looking down, I could see my arms and legs, but I couldn't move them. I couldn't even feel. Not numb, just nothing. The doctors walked in. They started to tell me that I'd gone headfirst down a flight of concrete steps, landed right on top of my head, shattered bones at the base of my neck, badly crushed my spinal cord, and was paralyzed from the neck down. And then they gave me a life sentence, quadriplegia. I would never walk again. Absolutely devastating. Not only was my dream shattered, but all those things I might not ever be able to do in my life. And as I was lying there in that just shock and agony and dismay and anguish and confusion, the phone rang. It was my coach calling. He said, "How are you doing?" I'm like, "What do you mean, how am I doing? This is beyond my worst nightmare. Forget about the Olympics. I don't know if I'm ever going to walk again." In that moment of my confusion, of my heartbreak, of my dismay, he had the nerve to challenge me. He said, "Are you going to fight and make yourself well, or are you going to give up and quit?" I was so pissed. I couldn't believe he would say that. Doesn't he know what I'm dealing with? But the champion in me and the logic of it, gosh, of that choice, of course I'm going to fight and make myself well. So that's what came out of my mouth. I'm going to fight and make myself well. I'm going to recover 100% and walk out of here. He said, "Okay, great, then that's what we'll do." And we really had no idea how to do that, because all the doctors said, "There's no way. There's nobody else that's done this." But what did I do? I had a coach that believed in me and went back to Olympic training. I applied all those things I'd learned through the lifetime of athletics and achieving, and as an engineer designing systems, I created my own recovery program. I applied the power of my mindset, of this, literally the language of saying that, knowing that it was possible, and without having an idea how to do it, visualizing myself not only standing and walking, but going back to the hammer throw, getting back on that podium. I refused the pain meds. I took control of my environment. I said, "The doctors, you work for me. It's not the other way around," right? I brought in my own food and water to nourish my body for the best possible healing. And I strained more intently than any Olympic lifting that I'd ever done, till finally I got the faintest little flicker. And once I got that, I knew I could build it back bit by bit. There's so much more to that story. But just 6 weeks later, I was able to walk out of the hospital under my own power. Incredible victory, right?
Yeah. You did it.
Just like Superman. Even better, right? We know what happened with Christopher Reeve. And then I went on to, here's some pictures of me in the hospital getting up and taking my first step. And I went on to run triathlons and hike mountains. So I told this story for so many years, inspired so many people. But I found the more that I told the story, the worse that I felt. Because deep down, I've been hiding this terrible secret. The secret about how I really got injured. How I really got injured, that accident, it wasn't an accident. I had an emotional trauma triggered in that romantic relationship, and it just broke my heart. I couldn't deal with the heartbreak, the agony, the emotional anguish. And being taught to be strong and be in control, being successful, you can't show weakness, never let them see you sweat. And my perceptions through the media of the mental health industry, I thought if I told anyone that was really going on, I'd end up locked away in restraints, pumped full of drugs. Being the warrior I was, there was no way I was going to turn myself over to that kind of fate. And by choosing not to talk to anybody about it, I boxed myself in. And after 6 weeks of literally not sleeping a wink, none of the tools that I had made any difference. In fact, it was just getting worse. One night I was pacing back and forth on the landing out front of my apartment. I'd thought about killing myself, but I didn't want to do that. But I got to a point where I just couldn't take that pain anymore. It seemed like there was no other way out. So I took 2 steps and intentionally dove head first off that landing. Willfully kept my arms at my sides, trying to kill myself. What seemed like the best choice that I could make to get out of that pain that I was in. And then I woke up into a whole new set of problems. But I kept that secret deep down, because that voice in my head said, you can never tell anyone. It took me 18 years of grappling with those things that I didn't even realize for so long, and then could see in my life the shadows of the guilt and the shame. I never thought I was lying about it. I just wasn't talking about that, right? But the more I told the cool story, as I know, speak about it, the more that ate away inside me. And so it was just 2 years ago that I finally publicly shared for the first time how I really got injured. And now I feel so blessed by that whole experience, because I realize it gives me a way to connect and contribute to people far beyond what I ever even imagined. My vision, my context around the Olympics was being able to inspire others. But the Olympic arena was so limited compared to the breadth of the audience and the depth of the humanity that I'm able to connect with people and inspire them and realize that you're never alone. The only way that we're alone is if we sentence ourselves to that. When we reveal those things that we can't feel like we can't talk about, we actually get to be known for who we really are. Wouldn't you rather be rejected for being who you really are than be loved for pretending to be something you're not? You never know what might happen for yourself or someone you know or a loved one or a stranger that could set off that spiral, that emotional cascade. Part of my message, I believe, if it could happen to me, it could happen to anyone. I had everything going for me. I had the social support structure. I had this incredible willpower and power in my mind, even my body. But I wasn't willing to talk about it. So one of the things that I've gone on to do is bring this message to colleges and students. And it's not just that age group. It's actually the number 10 cause of death in the US now. It's number 2 in the college age group. But part of why I'm so passionate about sharing this message is I believe and I hope and pray that I've been able to go through that experience and come back to make sure that nobody ever has to do that. Nobody ever has to make that terrible choice. Nobody feels like they don't have any other option. And just so quickly, I want to encourage you all, no matter what may be going on in your life, to share that with others, be willing to ask for help, and to ask others, what's really going on with you? No, what's really there? And there's always resources, and there's that hotline, know that those things are there before you need it. Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be able to be here to be of service to you.